Well, hi everybody, and welcome to this week's broadcast of Xenos Wisdom Up. I have an exciting interview for you guys today. I'm chatting with my friend Rachel Birch. She is a comedian and the host of the wildly popular podcast Love Before 100. So we are talking about what it's like as a woman, a single woman in your 40s, plus what it's like to date in 2025, and also what it's like to date 100 men. That's also going to be coming up in today's interview. Welcome. And welcome to you, Rachel. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So glad you're here. Also, just want to remind everybody that if they haven't subscribed yet to my channel, to do so now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next exciting episode. And so with that, Rachel, I'm going to ask you a general question about what is your experience with what has it been like dating as a woman in your 40s in today's day and age, and what kind of things have you tried in order to meet? Guys, it has been interesting. That was kind of the basis of my own podcast, was creating a bucket list of ways to meet men and kind of going through them and trying to create like a win-win situation, so that if I didn't find love, at least I would have a good story to tell, and or a funny story to tell, or a sad story to tell. And I definitely all that and more. It's interesting because I wrapped last year, and I'm definitely noticing not having this kind of win-win situation makes me want to just stay home. What did you WP? Sorry, you said you wrapped. Oh, wrapped the podcast. I wrapped the 3 seasons, and yeah, and that was last February. And so you're not doing Love Before 100 again. You know, I really missed it, and I would be open to it just because it was really fun. It forced me to be on dating apps. It forced me to go to events that I wouldn't normally really honestly want to. Why is that, Rachel? Why just because you don't have the podcast? What is the resistance to continuing to do those things? Well, it's interesting. I have to look a lot, as we do in this work, at my mysteries, my beliefs, my mindset. There's a very strong story that the person that I want to meet isn't going to be in any of those places. You know, Neville Goddard talks about living in the end, right? And part of me tries to convince myself, well, if I was living in the end, I wouldn't be on dating apps. I wouldn't be necessarily attending these events. Not true. What not true? Well, that's the story that I'm telling myself now, because it's been a very save the younger man aside from him. And you know, I consider myself a reformed pessimist. I am very optimistic, and the experiences that I've had have not, again, they've been comical, they've been interesting. They haven't told me, you know, to the place that I ultimately want to be. You what though, Rachel? It reminds me of that story about, I think I heard Tony Robbins talking about this once, about a baby oaz to get up and try to walk so many times, and never once, all those times, it falls on its duff. Does it say? Well, Toll, with this walking business, I'm over it. I'm not even going to try again. And we do that with everything else in our lives. It's so strange. If babies did it, no one would be walking. We'd all be crawling around on our babies. True. And so I think just because some hasn't worked in the past, not me, and doesn't mean it's not going to work tomorrow. And you know, I speak about this as a woman who met the most extraordinary, incredible man in my 50s, and him also in his 50s, on Tinder, for God's sake of all places, you know. And it does happen. And I do think that getting out there and putting on, continuing to put oneself out there with a lightheartedness, as you would doing, is so work. It's so important. Absolutely. Yeah, you know, we've got to do both. We've got to see from the end, and then also follow instincts to try things. I don't know definitely. Well, I think if a baby was walking for or wasn't walking for 7 years, you would call in some specialists to help this baby up. No. And so that's basically where I find myself tack. And I went to a single 7th this weekend in LA, and I set my mind to be, I'm going to have a great time regardless, no matter what happens. I said that out loud, and minutes later, a friend that I had sent it to said, oh, can he still come with you? And so we had a great time together. It was a matchmaking event. The men that I was matched with, less desirable than, you know, maybe I would be. They were significantly older, which I'm not a hypocrite, right? I've dated significantly younger now, but they're on top of that. It just was not a good match, right? And so I've been trying to balance staying open with not settling, and I've used staying open to kind of put me in a situation where I would settle. And having dated this younger man now, I understand the difference between and not settling versus being open and kind of tricking yourself into settling. Oh, okay. So tell us about that. So what do you mean about that in regards to the younger man? And then I also want you know, now that you've said it, we want some more info on that. Well, there's so much information out there constantly telling us how to date, how to be a better single person basically. And you know, for a long time, I've been doing this work for a long time, and so I think a lot of this information I needed when I start dating, but you get to a certain point where you have to reevaluate what you're kind of consuming and taking in. So for me, I realized that I was still pushing myself to be open and coachable, which I am, but I was using, for example, there were 3 men that I was set up with at this singles event. One was at least 15 years older. I wasn't attracted to him physically. We weren't laughing. He was an artist that had, a lot of thoughts about his portraits. And it was a nice conversation, but the second guy was in also, I think in his 60s, and he was involved in child development, so talked a lot about my kids and his work. There was no spark, none, and then the third guy was I found him attractive. There wasn't a spark either, but I decided because there were only 3 that I would give this guy my phone number on the little Valentine that we wrote, and he wasn't interested. It wasn't a match. And I thought later, I wasn't offended. I've done enough work to know that it's not a personal thing. I looked back and I thought, okay, these 3 gentlemen in the past, I'd say, well, maybe there's more to uncover, on my podcast, I had an Irish matchmaker and he said, you should really give someone three chances before you make a decision. And I think in the past I would have said, well, let's be open. But what I've realized now is if there's not a spark, if there's not some curiosity, if there's not like a little bit of a butterfly, I think that's settling for me. I agree. Oh no, I totally agree. I disagree with 3 times completely. If you're not into somebody on date 1, why on earth would you give them a yeah, they can go around and for them too. That's so interesting. I just think of it as, I used to work for this direct cosmetic company back in Canada for quite a few years and was to have to go and recruit sales representatives. And it was high pressure stuff, right? If you didn't get your recruitment every week, you're going to get fired and you're to gates. And so it was like this. The theory was you throw as much mud against the wall and something sticks. You sign up anybody who breathes. You do not pre-qualify them. You sign them up and then you see afterwards, are they going to amount to anything and will you work with them or rare? They never go to a bar to anything, but you don't make that prejudgment. You sign them up, and I always think that's the co-direct sales method of dating, is you throw as much mud against the wall and see what sticks. That's my theory. That's what I've always told my clients. Put yourself out there, Ayo. Don't say yes by any means to anybody that's not like, whoa, I reevaluate to keep knowing this person, but you still have to throw the mud, in other words, do all the stuff that one needs to do because love is so worth it ultimately. That's my point, is you don't give up looking, even though it's not a desperate search, but you still have to put yourself out there and it because it's so worth it when it works out right. It's so worth it when it works out. It's worth all the frogs that you have to kiss along the way, and I don't know what men call fed eggs. I suppose that they have to kiss a long way. Who knows? But it's so worth it in the end when you it's like, oh my God, thank God, I never stopped. Yeah, because look what happened. So that's what I try to teach people is, no, you don't go on a date with somebody you don't have chemistry with over the phone or the initial meeting, or you don't like the way they text or treat you, whatever. No. But you still got to go asterisk and meet a gazillion people in order to find the one. It's like trying on jeans or a bathing suit. How many pairs of jeans do you have to try on to find the right one? So many. Yeah, no, absolutely. You agree. And jeans, I've definitely thrown lots of mud at the end, I mean, it's not just one way kind of throwing of mud, it's just there's there's a lot of things that have to click for it to kind of move to the next phase. And so I've definitely not given up looking. It's just kind of changing, acknowledging what has been pleasurable for me in the past and what hasn't. I've definitely tried the apps so many times, and I'm not saying I wouldn't go back to them at some point, but like in my current life, I have so much good things that I'm focused on that I want to try meeting someone in the wild. Yeah, well, I think online dating is wild in 2025. So tell us about the younger guys. So I know they were amazing benefits, even though it wasn't long-term ultimately that came from that. Can you tell us some of the benefits for you? Asa, 40-something woman, dating a 20-something guy at the time. What ways that for you? I know for me it makes me come alive. It's exciting. It reignites that physical part of you when you feel like maybe it's kind of died a little bit. That's what I discovered with Jan. But what did you discover? Jan would say in the 7 years of dating that it was the best dating I had. And I'm someone I know that there's a lot of different people that date younger for a lot of different reasons. I am someone that wasn't really open to that. So I had two different experiences on Bumble. I would match with all the like 40, 50-year-old men, and then on Hinge, it was mostly men in their 20s, reaching out to me, a couple in their 30s, maybe one in his 40s, and so I deleted the app because I thought like this isn't what I'm looking for. I'm really not interested. But you came on my much younger guys, yeah, back then, you came on my podcast and you told me to be open, and you say your lovers have been your greatest adventures and that there's something really magical about a woman in her 40s and dating a man in his 20s. Andy, think I just needed that, like, push that permission. I think it was something that I was innately maybe curious about but didn't realize until I had you on, and so I re-downloaded and I set the low at 20 because I had men in there like 21 wild reaching out to me. It was too young. They had these like baby faces. It just felt wrong to me. So yeah, understandable. So I matched with quite a few and chatted with a bunch on the app and then on the phone, and the majority of them were too immature for me. I liked stimulating conversations, and I like, kind of a flirty thing. I don't mind some level of sexual conversing up front, but just like a little bit, yeah. So it was pretty easy to weed out the ones that I didn't want to meet off the app, and I actually ended up going out with 3 men in their 20s. And 2 of them just seemed immature in connecting with where they were in their life, what they'd seen, kind of what we talked about. And then this third gentleman was from the Midwest. He was in the military. He was very big on kind of the courting process, like he will drive to me. He paid for dinner, even though I offered, because he had driven so far. He brought flowers as we continued dating. He gave me a birthday present, cooked dinner for me on my birthday. We dated for a year, so that was actual longest relationship that I'd had after my divorce, and yeah, it kind of stilled faith in finding someone. It gave me the opportunity to be good, partner in a lot of ways. The physical side, there was a lot of experiences that I hadn't had since probably high school or not high school, fun college. And so yeah, I was talking with one of me comedy mentors, big comedian, and one of the things was, there's nothing that can simultaneously boost your ego and then also crush your ego than dating someone that's 20 years younger, because I would say the majority of the experience was really good, very uplifting, very positive. Net gain as a say there were some kind of more negative things. I became a lot more aware of my age, where I've never felt like I wanted to be younger or look younger. That hasn't really been something, but dating Simeon, that looks so much younger and is so much younger. Going out in public was a little bit of it was fine. I didn't feel any embarrassment or shame or judgment. I was surprised how easy it was, but there was there were some concerns that definitely popped up too. To be honest, it's so funny, it makes me think I never really felt like it made me feel older or anything. When I was doing Mukendra Man and my much younger husband, we were shopping, and I was a regular customer, so I knew the manager and the staff and everybody, and there was a new sales assistant there, and my young husband had his board shorts hanging down off of his butt and was wearing a sloppy t-shirt and flip-flops, and he was goofing around and was a little high at the time and all of that, and I was just this new sales associate, was just looking at us and listening and watching all the antics. And then she sort of leads into him and she goes, "Your mother looks so young." And I heard this and I was like, "His mother?" I said, "I'm his wife." "Oh my God." And so she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, but granted, he did look 18, and yes, I could have been his mother, but still." And so the next time I went into store, she was gone, and I said to my friend who was the sales associate, I said, "Where is she?" And he goes, and I said, "Because of what she said to me." And he goes, "Yes." And I said, "No way." And he was just teasing me. He goes, "No shoe walk," but it was just so funny. Oh my God, I was like, please don't let somebody lose their yob over that, but it was, oh my God. Anyway, yes, it doshapan. But generally speaking, I always felt really kind of proud of I tend, sort of like, hey, yeah, I landed the hot younger one, yeso. aside from that, what were the other downfall? Do you think I'm glad? It was a net positive, and I know you had a lot often with it as well. Oh yeah, like every time I think about it, I smile. I think the other negatives would be, you have to remain unattached. I had to. I'm not saying that those type wasn't going to last exactly those relationships can, but I knew that that wasn't my path, that wasn't going to be who I married him. It was hard because I liked him so much, and like his character, he had amazing character. There were things about him that I was like, okay, it's interesting because of all the men. And that's why I chronicle it on the podcast. I went out with so many men in their 40s. I can think of maybe one that I would be proud to like introduce to my boys as far as like role model qualities, and I would have like no problem except fourth age difference, saying like be more like this man when you grow up. He had so many good qualities, and so that was hard to try to stay unattached but also let myself like really care about them. And he also knew it, and so there was definitely not the attachment on his side either, and that was hard to just knowing that like this is mostly a physical experience. And it was something that I definitely wanted and needed. I'm not somebody that can share myself easily with people, and Swa was going to have to take this very unique experience to be able to have kind of the adventure of having a love room. No, like I said, after I had you on the podcast, I ended that episode by saying like, okay, now I'm going to go find one, and I did, but the negative is that you have to let them go at some point. Yeah, have you treated I just did a video a few weeks ago about how I manifested love the Dr. Joe Dispenza way, which was to sit down and write a list. And I usually hate lists when it comes to calling an AA person, but this is slightly different. It's write a list of everything you're looking for in Theotoposin, and then you take a look at that list and you go and become ill of those things. So for me, it was things like I wanted somebody fit and healthy. So then the question for myself was, am I as fit and healthy as I want to be, or claim to be, or can I do some work in that regard? Okay, yes, I can. I wanted somebody sexy and confident. Well, how was my confidence level and my sexy level? Was I feeling all of that, or could I do some work on it? And so that's what I did, and I went through that list, and it was 2 months to the day after I did the list that I actually met my man, and ridiculously exactly 2 staff January, I made the list. 21st of March I met him, and I've never looked back. Yeah, and I didn't even know that he wanted a long-term partner at that point. I thought maybe just a friend with benefits, a younger guy who I didn't have to be too attached to. That's what I thought I wanted, and I said to God, I don't know what I want here. Beauty, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the list that would work for both, because I still wanted somebody healthy. I still wanted somebody sexy. I still wanted somebody confident, even if it was just going to be a friend with benefits. And so I made that list, and then I went about, working on myself and all those things, and completely forgetting about looking for it in another person. And then the other question that he had that Dr. Joe taught was, would you date you? Yeah, and I took that and I put in my journal and I said, be honest with myself. What are the pros for dating me and what are the cons right now? And then I looked at the cons and I thought, okay, where can you work on yourself with that? And I got so involved in working on myself and not searching for those things in someone else. And it worked so quickly. Oh my goshi, I'm a full believer in that. I love Joe Dispenza's teachings as well, so absolutely I've been basically doing that for the last, I would say probably like 3 years in different classes. I both of those things I love. I also looked at how I could be a better partner. I took classes in lap dancing and strip teases. I love that, right? I took so many classes, did a bunch of Budweiser shoots which were like amazing. I read The Soulmate Secret on Shep said, if your soulmate was observing your life, would you be proud? Like how would you feel basically? And at the time, many years ago when I went through the quiz, it was no, I wouldn't. And the main thing besides kind of the health and fitness was my work, and that I wasn't lit up about it. And so, being in this arena now where I have to podcasts and don'ts award winning and top 1%, and then writing this book, I feel like I'm systematically kind of going through and making everything to where yes, I would. And I think that's why when I look at going back to jumping into the dating app Ms. and the amount of the emotional up and downs that it has done for me in the past, I thought, I want to really be focused on me life. And then when I'm out and about in this phase, like I'll go and I told you this, at Pelican Hill Resort, and that's where I'll work for a couple hours, and I don't know that I would meet someone there, but I don't know that I wouldn't, and exactly going, I went Ona with someone, he told me about Bass Pro Shop, and he was like, it's all things men, and I was like, well, I need to go there then, so I went there, and they were giving away free hot dogs when I showed up, and I was like, this really is all things men. So I walk in, there's a whole section just on hot sauces, and he thought, okay, I'm going to come here once a month. I'm writing like a little comedy bit about me adventures at Bass Pro Shop. So I can go with my work, and then who knows, maybe I'll meet they sell boats there. They sell everything, yes. So I feel like I just want to make it fun. I want to do something that is as I said, like a net, like a net gain, a win-win situation for me, because I get, it wasn't 12 months, it's been years, and I'm not giving up, and I'm not, I'm throwing in the towel, but I have to change up something so that it just feels more and more like me and gives me energy instead of drains my energy. Yeah. And so I've got a little tip on how to date without having that emotional roller coaster, and that is to get it into your head that you are a hell of a catch. We always try to entice the other person and hope that they like us, or hope we get some luck with things, as opposed to going in and saying everybody's really lucky that I'm like here, hello, and I'm all of that. It's for everybody. It's for men, and women. It's for all of you. You've got Tobelev, that you are the catch. Yeah, and when you have that attitude, you kind of become like, bees to a honeypot. You sort of get a little irresistible, a little magnetic, and it's not as though you're walking around everybody that you're the best thing on in the world, but you're feeling it. You're walking down the street, and you just know, and every time you go on a date, you're like, he's bloody lucky. Orsha's bloody lucky, whichever it is, be meeting me right now, because I am all that, and that takes the pressure off, because now it's like, look what I have to offer. It's not like, oh God, I hope he likes me, or I hope he's this, or I hope he's that. It's and it really just feels good, walking around with that swagger and that feeling. Yeah, I love that. I've had date experience, like when I get off stage and I do an amazing comedy set. I've felt like, oh, okay, this woman doesn't no care if I get a text from that guy, or whatever. Yes, it's not something that I walk around in every day, but it's definitely something I strive for. So I think that's, really good advice to heed. Especially I try to copy and paste that energy, cause I've felt it, now I know what it feels like, just embody that, more often. Exactly. I remember having to write that in my journal quite a few years ago now. I caught myself, and I thought, what is wrong with you? Always used to realize that you were a catch, and that these guys were lucky to be with you. What changed? Were no suddenly you hoping that this guy likes you, or whatever, and I thought that is an energy that you need to get rid of, Jockin. That is bad _. You go back to that where you knew you were a catch. You also then don't put up with substandard nonsense from somebody else, and you don't you don't take crumbs, and you know all of those things. And I suppose it was dating apps and social media comparisonitis, all of that had got me to that weak and pathetic place of I found myself going, well, I was hoping people would like me. I'm like, who are you? That's nonsense. You didn't do that. You're all that. And take it or leave it for them, And it was an interesting thing that I had to catch myself with. And at what point did you stop realizing you were a catch? Get back to Hothit. Yeah, absolutely. So I keep getting asked by some of the young on my YouTube channel about what is the sex like between an older woman and a younger man, okay? And my answer to that is, it's freaking great. I'll be a little bit more detailed, but what is your answer to that? Yeah, it is freaking great. I waste it to one of my friends the other day too. She was like, what's it like? And I was like, they're just like a lot of passion. And I can only speak to the individual that I was with, right? There's just one, but very enthusiastic. A lot of energy, very creative as far as locations. They're not kind of already in their routine of this issue. I do it. This is the, way that I like it. This is the place that I like it. I mean, I don't think had sex one time, like in my bed. It was just everywhere else. Yeah, I mean, I would say there were no complaints on either side for me. It's the adventurous part. Yes, I think younger men, the enthusiasm is incredibly verdi. wants enthusiastic sex. I mean that's just aerially key part and I think all the older women are not as a fritto experiment as when you are younger. You may be a little bit shy, a little bit more shy about your body, a little bit more shy about, what's he going to think of me if I say yes to this or you? No, I don't know. Yeah, so many are we going to get caught because we're not at home? Yeah, I mean, I think about the 20-year-old or 25 you. No year-old me, and there was a lot of self-conscious parts that would definitely hold me back. And the other piece, I was talking to a guy that I dated. We never slept together. We dated as like a gorgeous man, but it was not somebody that I wanted to do that with. And I was telling him about date. This younger man, I said, like, as soon as he walks in the door, it's like, that it started the clothes come off. Yeah. And he was like, God, I wish I had that. And it was funny because I went over to his house. Fathis, very attractive. Like extremely attractive man, amazing body. I went over to his house 6 times. Like we had 6 dates and there was always like a lot of conversation first and talking, which I'm on. I like that. That's nice, but there was never it. Just energetically. It wasn't come in the door and get started, and so I think there's just a lot more permission to act on your desires. Yes, older won't find it as to fly the freak flag. I think too, it's like Yelit's experiment. I got nothing to freaking lose here. Yeah, so I do. I think it is an amazing match. I waste talking about, I think a woman in her 40s, there's all stuff you going on, and I don't know. It was my horniest decade for sure. For some reason, I have my theories, and men in their 20s are super horny. So it was just a great match, and I was so ready for the antithesis of boring zix. Like, I was so ready for some wild and passionate stuff, and weird and wonderful places, and incredible positions, and men in their 20s don't seem to have a lot of inhibitions when it comes to sex, and women 40 plus have started to drop their inhibitions, and even if they have them, they're like, oh, hold on a second, maybe it's time for me to get a little naughty here and experiment with something a little new and fun. It's just a really fun time and a really fun match in terms of sex. When I went to the boudoir shoot, the one that I had more recently, the woman was talking about her husband, and she's like, I just sometimes just want him to throw him against the wall, and I was like, you should date it. Too bad you're married. You could date, because a lot of people will say stupid things like, oh, I'm so glad I'm married. I could never date right now. Like, I can't imagine. It's so awful, these people. So she had started the conversation like that, oh, I'm so glad I'm married and I don't have to date. And I thought, okay, that's like a really insensitive thing to say to someone, but okay, I was just thinking that. And then she was complaining in the next breath about, her 40-something husband and how he's more feminine and doesn't do those things. Andy was like, yeah, that's the benefit of being single. You can date men in their 20s and you can have that experience. And Ash was like, tell me about it. It's something that even my podcast, my sister keeps telling me my friends want more like soft porn episodes. I'm like, okay, Southerse, there's a craving for that kind of like passion and that kind of, just primal sex. And so I feel like you can have that. In the 7 years, I've only slept with 2 people. One was in his 40s and one in his 20s. And it was night and day different. The 40-year-old experience was lackluster, and then it ended immediately and was bad, so that's the only ones that I can really speak to. But even just going out with a bunch, the chemistry was not there on our first date with the guy in his 20s. Oh yeah, afterwards we went to my car. We went to my car and we didn't have sex, but we kissed. It was just like, okay, there's chemistry here, and it was immediate. And I think I'm a little bit nervous for finding someone that's more, age appropriate now that I've had Tate experience, cause it's like, I hope you can live up to that, because that pretty go well, they are out. Theramigiu is horny as the day is long, in his 50s, and I just marvel at him a lot off the time. I'm like, oh my God, I got to keep up. So they are definitely out. But yeah, as somebody who's coached a lot of people on the subject of love and sex and so on, I can't tell you how many people have said that to me. Women have said that to me, that I just want to push Moop against the wall and take me and say, I just want to, your brains out. We want that primal thing. We want that masculine thing. And I mean, just look at 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, why was that such a huge success amongst women from all sorts of parts of the world? Why? Well, because everybody longs to be taken like that. And if they don't, they just don't know what they're amiss. I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's a real thing, and it's so great, and it's not to say older guys don't do it, but generally speaking, younger men are not intimidated by those kinds of actions. Yeah, and I don't. I mean, the two other men in their 20s that I went out with, one was even a fireman. They were a little more passive. So, again, you have to kind of, but I think it's way more common at the men in their 20s. And if anyone's listening, I would say do that, be that person because exactly, that's once you've established a relationship with somebody and you have mutual trust. Obviously, no, we're not talking about doing that. My husband, my young husband, sealed the deal for me the next night after the night we met. I had a dinner party, and I invited him, and we hadn't slept together the previous night, the night we actually met, and so he came, and we were so horny for each other, so hot for each other, and I had told him to leave the night before. And I said, I got to wake up early, and I need you out of here. So that night, at the dinner party, all my friends left and has stayed behind, and he took me and he put me up against the wall, and he said, just so you know, I'm not leaving tonight, Andy. Was like I could ever say no to that. I'm like PTY in his hands. I mean, no. Yeah, it was so hot anyway. I've said this before, and I say this to men all the time. You've got to take the lead in terms of when you're asking someone out for a date. Don't say, well, when do you want to meet and where do you want to meet? That is such a turnoff to a woman and if a woman wants you to say that, chances are she's not the kind of woman you're going to, want to be with down the road, right? You want to say, meet me at 7 o'clock at the pub down the street on Thursday. I'll be waiting for you. Like definite. A woman wants a man who's definite. So tell me now, what do you find attractive in a man? What is the kind of man and/or the kind of relationship that you want now? I find you intelligence. I find sense of humor. I find patience. The guy that ideated, he stayed calm in the craziest situations, and that was so attractive to me. I think probably from military training to be able to take the lead, we made in calm in those situations, not, have that kind of, had the experience where something goes wrong and then I'm getting yelled at, and it's nice to have someone that would be able to take control. If something went wrong, I've always said I wanted someone who inspires me as far as relationship. I thinking the other day, I want to be adored in the sense of wow, I'm so lucky to be with you, and I thought this isn't Aeon way. Street, I want to feel the same way about him. I'm not looking to be Cleopatra laying and being no fanned with palm fronds, but I want to be with someone that does see that I am a good catch, and I want to be with someone who's equally a good catch. And that's a subjective test, right? To me, I think that's such a good one. Yeah, too. I can have a good time with. Yeah, so yeah, notice. All the young men who are listening, or men who are listening to this, notice that not once did Rachel mention a physical attributesso. Many people love to sing the blues about how women only want some men of a certain height or a certain look, and women say the same thing about men, and all of that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you say things like that, whereas the truth is most women are not looking for Thatcher Tainley women worth their salt. If you go through all the men I've ever loved or dated for a significant period of time, there isn't a single physical characteristic that runs through them. Some of them are short, some of them are tall, some of them are, big, burly guys, others are skinny, as all heck. I mean, there isn't there's personality. Yeah, great personality, sense of humor, intrigue, fascinating humans. That's what turns me on. Are you fascinating? Are you interesting? I never once said I'm looking for a guy who's 62, blue eyes and dark hair, blonde hair, whatever. Never once. And so that's a misconception that I would love for people to stop you creating as a story in their mind. And so men, just take note of what Rachel just said. Most when I hear a woman that is focused on height, I think you have so much work to do. I'm 5'12", so I didn't. I don't care, not an issue for you. It's not. I mean, I matched a guy that was 52 also. I would prefer someone that's maybe an inch or two taller than me, but and I recently saw an Instagram reel, and the woman was a matchmaker, and she said, I'm going to tell you the three things that men most ask for, and the first one was tall, and I thought, well, if there's a guy, where then number one thing, or anywhere on his list, He's looking for a woman that's tall. That's not me, and I wouldn't want to try to convince him otherwise. I don't have That's not like a battle that I want to fight. Just let them find a tall girl and we'll go about our business. So there are some women out there that are looking for tall men, and I would say then that's not your match. You don't want that person. Exactly right. And look, I'm 5 foot and without heels, and I still like to wear heels, so a very short guy. I'm not, it's not great for me. As a woman towering over your man-ism. Yeah, for me, it wasn't really something that I wanted, but I've certainly dated men 5'9", the same height as me. So when I'm wearing heels, yes, I'm taller, but it's never been an iswabi because they've had a very masculine, confident personalities. It was so funny. Beckos, my ex, used to say about short guys who wealthy, yeah, he may be only 5'6", but he's really tall when he sits on his wallet. Well, I went out with a guy that was 65, and it was miserable. The whole date was miserable. It was probably one of my worst first dates. And I said to him, I'm like, look, he kept talking about his height, which for me was like, okay, that's all you have to for. Underscore Rachel, you'd need a STI letter to kiss him. I know, well, I said, I feel selfish. I don't know what to do with all those extra inches, not interested. Save it for someone else. That thought wants that. So I wanted to ask you, I'm sure everybody's curious. What's it like learning how to do a great lapone? And what's it like for your man when you surprise him with that when it's not your profession? Well, the second one is still TBD, because you didn't do it. Fourth, younger guy, no, I didn't. I'm still self-conscious. I'm still learning. It's very vulnerable. I did it in a class. We actually had partners and we would practice with other women in the class, and I learned some great things from some of my partners. I was like, oh, I didn't think about that, but I think that was one of the things with the guy that Ty was dating, was that we had a deep comfort level in some areas. We talked about a lot of things, but also it wasn't like a real relationship, but learning was incredibly gratifying. I always felt very kind, awkward and weird, trying to do some of these different moves, and to be able to do it, it feels really good. And like you said on your list, like you want someone that's sexy. I have Tobcom that. And so that was one way that I could kind of tap into that. That was one of the big kind of takeaways that I had. I got all the boudoir pictures back, and they guy and I basically stopped seeing each other. And so I thought, these are good. I want to share them with somebody, and I thought, well, this is just for me, and I'm going to pinto all the ways that I can feel sexy alone. In the meantime, yeah, well, put one on your wall, and I definitely am going to do that. Yeah, and there's GNAB, a guy where he's going to be the perfect guy for doing a lap dance, surprising him with a lap dance, and also giving him your pictures. It's coming. It's definitely coming. It's like anything. If you don't believe it 100%, it's not going to happen. It's like you got to believe 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, and leave the timing up to God. It's the only way to do it. Yeah, and it is coming. Yeah, and Minari, all the work you've done on yourself, and now having had this fun experience with the younger guy, you are such a catch for somebody. Thank you, yeah. And I think all of this has gotten to the place of not feeling like I need it to be complete, which is just ultimately where you want to be. This is the first time in my life that I've just felt like I hope it happens. I'm going to stay open, but I don't need to make it happen or try anything different or fix anything. I just want to focus on the other areas of my life and really be excited about those areas, and then let it come in when it comes in, but not constantly working on it and seeking. I did that. I needed to do that. There's a period of time that you need to do that, right? And now it's like, let me focus on some other areas, yeah, and just continue to have fun and enjoy your life. It's so critical to just really enjoy your life and have fun and think about what is it that makes me happy on the day-to-day, and how can I do more of that? And those yabacas, then you become more of a magnetic person too. When you also scratch your itches and become curious, and make your list of what you're curious about, and go and adventure down those paths, Yay, absolutely. Do you have any words of wisdom for women in their 40s, plus war dating right now? Yes, I would say buy open, but don't settle. Don't make that mean. I remember you said on my podcast, have standards but no expectations. And so I think really lean into the standards. One of my standards was effort. You have to put effort in. And that's how this man in his 20s really stood out to me from all the other men, was that he was putting in effort, and that's so attractive. It is so be clear on what it is that you want and what you're looking for, and stick to that. Don't give up, Poe. Do you have any words of wisdom for younger men who are interested in dating older women, like in terms of how do they can become more attractive to an older woman, a pop show? They can meet older women. Do you have any insights into that? I think dating apps are a great way to meet them. I would say something like Hinge, where it's like you can actually, that was the thing of man in his 20s that I connected with, was because he had liked one of my photos, commented, sent me a message. I'm so definitely try a non-swiping app from just my experience. Put in some effort and it doesn't have to be a lot. Like one, the guy I was dating would come over. I would let him pick up dinner. He wanted to up, but it would be like in and out. It didn't have to. We didn't went out to dinner a couple times. The first date he took me out to dinner. I had a gift card to like a really nice Mastro steakhouse, so I took him out. It can be a mutual thing. Beautiful. Was attractive. You're saying in and out was great because it's not as though it has to be expensive. It just has to be. You did it. It just has to be. I would like to pick up, dinner for you. That's my love language, is acts of service. So even we made s'mores at my house one time, and he was like, let me do your marshmallow, and he took such care in making it. I think that's when I was like, okay, I'm falling for this guy, I'm crazy about that kind of stuff. And so yes, it was just making me feel special, important, and like I said, it's not a one-way street. I've seen some of the comments on some of your videos about women just, they want money, or they want a free dinner, or they want, and it's not like that. But if you can stand out by starting it that way, and if you're with somebody that's making you jump through all these hoops and it doesn't feel good, move on to someone else. But I would see that there are women out there that are going to be open to it, and they're going to want it to be reciprocal. And if you put in a little effort and have some sincerity, respond to their texts and text consistently. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be good morning and good night or anything like that. But every couple days, that was what we had, and that was enough for me. So yeah, put in some effort and try Hinge. And yeah, don't start sexual in your first interaction. I would work up to that, maybe even wait until the first date. Just talk about other things that you would talk about with other women in their 20s. And then it will come out. That part will come, but nobody's sitting there hoping to get a picture of any of your private parts before they meet you later. Maybe, but not maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying maybe. We don't know what people are into. Yeah, most women are not into receiving dick pics, but what we don't want to burst all these men's bubbles that they enjoy sending them. I'll look at the ones that are sent to me. But the guy that I dated never did that. He was like, I don't do that. I'm good with that. So yeah, but I'm just saying there might be an opportunity to do that. Just don't do it too early. I agree with you 100%. And no, the other thing I learned about women is we need to be wooed, right? It's very important to woo a woman because a woman feels sexually attracted when she's sexually desired, and a woman is turned on by being the turn on, is how Hester Pell put it, which I thought was a great way of saying it. And so when you make a woman feel good and feel appreciated and feel beautiful and feel sexy, you are so much more likely to get lucky with her and to win her over. But you got to keep it up if you want to be in a relationship. You got to keep doing that. Don't let things get old and boring, and keep making your wife or your girlfriend or your partner feel like she's the turn on, because she will keep putting out when she feels that way. But we want to feel like we're real of that. Yeah. And when a guy says, oh my God, you're so sexy, you're just the sexiest woman I've ever seen, I'm like, oh my God, yes. Keep talking, buddy. Keep talking, and don't disappear and then come back, a couple weeks later, a month later, and expect her to still think, oh, I'm desirable. That's how things end. Yes, and women need to really end things when it happens like that. Don't if you're just being a high text every few months, you got to get rid of that. Yeah, no crumbs, you're too good for crumbs, women. Remember that. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up? No, stay in the game, be open, keep listening to Jackie Amazing Gidvas. Thank you, good luck. Yeah, good luck to everybody out there, and don't make up stories about there's no women like this or there's no men like this, because when we tell ourselves, thought will find exactly what we're looking for. So you get what you focus on. You focus on the fact that there's no single men or women in your town or whatever. That's exactly what you're going to find. So change your story and you will find to match your new story. Yes, thank you for having me. Rochelle, thank you so much for being here. We'll do it again, okay? Oh, and by the way, everybody, if you want to check out Rachel's podcast, I will put them in the link up below this video and of course, to work with me, you will find the links below this video. And thank you so much for watching. Buffed. You haven't yet subscribed, do so now, turn on notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye H.